Before I start today's Liverpool Latest, I want to address the 500-pound blue and orange elephant in the room. Yes, for the third day in a row, or the third episode in a row, I am still wearing the exact same Knicks shirt. Why? I love this team. And fuck Philly. If there's any New York Knicks channel in the Fan Arch Network, holler at me. Would love to work with you in the future. And if there's any Liverpool fans in the Fan Arch Network, come holla at your boy, because I like collaboration. I think it's fun. Now that that's off my chest, I am unfortunately not going to be able to cover the match as I had hoped to, at least as early as I want. I am going on vacation this weekend, so by the time this video comes out, the Liverpool and Chelsea match would have already been completed because it's so damn early in the day. That said, I figured instead of not giving you guys anything, I would rather provide you some content and not necessarily providing news, but giving conversation. So I had the idea that I'm going to give you my top 4 reasons as to why I believe Arne Slot should not be Liverpool manager going into the next season. And I'm going to be as much constructive criticism as I can here. No personal bullshit, no ball jokes, at least as best I can. I can't promise that, but no personal shit, no attacking, not really any emotion. Just what I see from a week-to-week basis as a fan of this club for several years now, and why I think that Slot cannot get the job done. Slot, to me, feels like one of those types of coaches or managers that overstays their welcome long after they should have been gone. And that's saying a lot because Arne Slot is now completing his second year at the helm of Liverpool Football Club. The reason I have this judgment about him is because I have seen many of my sports teams hold on too long to coaches that they should not be holding on this long to in any way, shape, or form. And it's funny because for some of those teams, I have seen them change coaches no problem. I must have seen at least 5 or 6 or more Knicks coaches in my time as a fan. At least 6. Probably more, but my memory is a little foggy. I've seen at least 5 Rangers coaches, 6 Rangers coaches, some of whom should not have been fired when they were, but alas. I've seen Giants go through coaches like no problem ever since Tom Coughlin left. I've seen the Yankees, and this is where I really draw this comparison, I've seen the Yankees hang on too long to a coach that I don't think can get the job done as a manager. He might be doing good right now, but I'm waiting for that inevitable collapse, and that is Aaron Boone. To me, Arne Slot is an early stage Aaron Boone. Someone who relies too heavily on analytics instead of feeling out the game as it's being played. And that leads to my first reason as to why I feel Arne Slot should not be the coach of Liverpool football at the end of the season. His tactics and his style of play are incredibly rigid. I've made this comparison before, and I will make it again. It is the definition of insanity over and over and over again. And every time we expect a different result, or he expects a different result from the previous week or the previous match, we find ourselves in the exact same place where we started. Square one. And for a man that preaches about controlled possession and pressing, compact pressing, and a calmer build-up as opposed to chaos, you would think that that's a recipe for a decent team, or at least a decent style of play. Instead, and this is all the first year, by the way, a lot of this happened in the first year of the team, where we had the tools to get it together. The second year is slow, easy to counter, monotonous, passing all across the final third, only to be taken away by some defender in a low block. Vulnerability in the defensive position constantly. And of course, too dependent on individual quality as opposed to working together as a team. Something about the tactics that he has been implementing this season, as opposed to last season, is I'm in shock. It's boring. It's slow. It is a chore to sit through a Liverpool match for 90 minutes. And I have had matches like that under Klopp too. But at least with Klopp, it wasn't always like this. Yes, there would be some bad games or bad starts to games here and there. I can't imagine how many times I've said this is the worst first half I've ever watched. And then somehow, some way, we miraculously win the game in the second. But I have said on numerous occasions, both during Slot and during Klopp, this is the worst first half of football I've ever watched. And I wish I had $1 for every time I'd say it. I really do. That's how many times I've said it. But the difference between the two styles of play is that one continues to be bad, the other at least finds a way or tries to find a way to win. It seems like after a team scores their first goal against us, oftentimes very early, they, being Liverpool, cower into a corner. And they oftentimes don't come out of that corner. Once a team starts scoring, it's kind of all said and done from there. The fight in their eyes is gone by the 35, 40-minute mark, before even halftime even shows up. And then in the second half, it's just them trying to play catch-up. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, or most times it doesn't. And what we get is just an absolutely disgustingly gross match to watch, in the sense where it's just awful football, frustrating football. And that all comes down to tactics. I have preached for a long time, I do not agree with the 4-2-3-1 position or formation and Slot's implementation of it. Mostly because we don't have the fucking personnel to have that formation right now, because half of our team is fucking injured. Don't worry, I'll get to that in a second. But it all starts with the formation. And clearly, the formation has been incredible, part of the reason why we are having so many problems. While yes, the 4-3-3 under Klopp was predictable too, it provided results. The 4-2-3-1 under Slot has actually caused more problems than what it's worth, frankly speaking. So, that is where I lead you with the first part of my rant. The second part of my rant is the poor game management. And that starts once again with conceding early on in games and having to play catch up within the first 15 minutes. How do we find ourselves in the same position over and over again throughout the season? And it seems like it was never a problem that was ever truly fixed. The mentality to cower in a corner, though, was constantly there. It was never to fight out of those positions. Think about the United game. We're lucky we drew that game. We were lucky that we tied it and we were on the verge of a draw. And then what happens? Weak mentality, and that shatters whatever hope we had of getting a point out of that game. It's an absolute emotional roller coaster to get through, to watch a match of Liverpool. Now, what's even more confusing to me, and this is a good example, the Bournemouth example is what my notes are calling it here. That became symbolic, where there was much confusion over substitutions, where players were unsure whether to stop play or, you know, and continue to have defensive chaos, and 6 minutes of disorganization while effectively playing with what was 10 men. So that is a reflection on coaching, for sure. Let's also not mistake the fact that the substitution slot makes do not make any sense. And then that comes down to the fact that we are also in a very awful injury rut at the moment in time. That said, there have been times where substitutions make absolutely no sense whereas why would we put on one player and take off another when that one player that we're taking off could have helped the other player create opportunity to help them score? Why are we randomly throwing on Federico Chiesa in the 91st minute with no virtual playing time to go and expect him to do something? Why, for much of the time, were we throwing on Rio Ngamoha when he could have been an absolute beast earlier on in the game with the proper substitution? And these substitutions that take place are just sickening. Even the benching of certain players is a sickening thing to watch. Why are certain players getting benched while other players continue to play on the field that have shown nothing all season? Almost nothing. I can't say Cody Gakpo, who I'm targeting here, has shown nothing, but he has not been great. He has not been stellar. Why does he continue to get playtime? What does he have on Arne Slot and the club that he continues to get starts while other players who probably could use the start to show off proper skill are getting peanuts instead? They're getting less than peanuts. They're getting fucking shit. It all comes down to game management and all comes down to the coaches. Now let's also talk about, and this kind of ties into the tactical point of view too, where when it comes to set pieces, our management of set pieces has also been very poor. Now, that's not necessarily a game management thing, but it's something that affects the game because that leads to awful mentality when it comes to defending a set piece. How many times have we seen men unmarked score goals on us from a corner or a throw-in? Yes, we have been scored on from a throw-in. It's all a mentality. It's all game management. It's pathetic, truthfully. Next up on my list, the management of the player's health. I have seen this argument many times throughout the course of the season, and I never really bought into it until injuries really started to mount up. Wataru Endo was one. Connor Bradley. Isak was out for a while. Frimpong has constant issues. Same thing with Allison. Ekatike is another one that had a rough couple of injuries. He had like one dead leg or dead knock or whatever it was called, and then he had a fucking Achilles tendon the next time, or an ACL, whatever it was. Whatever it was going to keep him out for the rest of the year. Not the season, the year. We're not even sure if we're going to get him back in January. Imagine that shit. So, how is it that, what is going on in training that players are having these constant injury issues? Is Slot getting too light with training? Is he not pushing them as hard? Are the players not pushing themselves as hard? I don't know. I understand there is a balance between the two, but when you're having this many injuries in the span of a season, you have to ask yourself, what is this team not doing in training that is preventing them to be match fit? And I tried to explain this in a previous video earlier this week, and somebody by the name of Broken Gamer 76, who commented on this video, who, by the way, said it much better than I could in that video, but I'm going to reiterate what he's saying now. He goes on to say, and I quote, "I can tell you why we get so many injuries. Because Slot," and this is his words, not mine, "is a moron, and his training plans are too light on the players, plus they get too much time off. They are not match fit, as proven by the fact that the players are all shot by the 60-minute mark and can't press the opponent." And that was the one thing that stuck out to me the most, was how the fitness is affecting the press. And it's very evident that in the latter portions of games, we very much have a problem with this particular issue. Under Klopp, there was, from my, when I would, and I'm not comparing the two, but from what I've watched from the two coaches, under Klopp, I noticed a distinct difference in the sense where that the team always fought. They always pushed until the very last whistle, until there was no time left. If they were down or in a draw, they always tried. When it comes to this Liverpool team, they are the ones that have to fight on the defensive end and have to prevent from getting scored on in instances such as that in stoppage time. I agree with the sense that training is definitely a failure here. I'm not sure about the too much time off thing. I can't confirm or deny any of that. I've heard that there is a lot of time that they have in between training sessions, and I understand that there is a work-life balance when it comes to sports. But if you ask me, if I'm paying somebody, or if I'm getting paid, or actually, if I am paying someone who is playing for my team as an owner or a GM or something, millions of dollars. It is notorious that the Premier League has some of the most ridiculous contracts in sports. Millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. And they're sitting out on the bench for half of the season with an injury because their training wasn't going great, or like they were too light in training or whatever. As a person running a business from a business standpoint, I'm going to say to myself, is this player really worth my time? Is he worth all of the money that we have spent into this individual? Because he's constantly hurt. He's constantly injured. He's constantly on the bench. Is the manager pushing them hard enough to the fact that they are doing all they can to prevent a situation like this from happening? I'm not saying that some of these injuries are freak accidents. Don't get me wrong. Like Connor Bradley's injury was a freak accident. Honest to God, there were some of the injuries I saw that they didn't even get hit. Like I still cannot recall Endo getting hit before he fucked his foot up. And that's shocking. I didn't see Ekitike get hit when he went down with that leg injury. This is all happening on their own accord. So, what exactly is the fitness team doing to help these players? Is it a different squad, or is it a different group of people that were different under Klopp? Like, is it the same group of people taking care of the players? Is it a more lax team? Is it a more strict team? Like, what exactly is the training and the fitness going on, and the physios? What are they doing that is not helping here? Like, there's a disconnect somewhere. I can't pinpoint where it is, but there is a disconnect between what's going on behind the scenes in training and what's going on the field. And clearly, the one thing I can say is that from my point of view, I agree with the comment. There is a lack of training and being fit for a match amongst this team right now, because this is a too much of a night and day difference between last year's squad when we won the title and this year's squad. This is not the same team. The personnel is different, yes, but this is not the same team. Fitness-wise, mentality-wise, it's very, very surprising. And probably one of the biggest things to me, as far as like a personal point of view, and I'm not personally attacking Slot, but as someone that reads and watches his interviews and see what he has to say and how he interacts with, the identity of being a Liverpool manager. Between him and Klopp, it's night and day. There is a reason that I cried when Klopp announced that he was leaving at the end of the season. Even though I had not watched the team for a long period of time, like I missed a decent amount of time, but watching Klopp in like little videos online and how he interacted with the club, how he repped the club, how he still reps the club, there was something about that man that I could get behind. Okay? I cannot get behind Arne Slot. Some of his comments come to me as very arrogant, very dismissive, very annoyed when he's given criticism from or asked questions from criticism from other journalists. He responds very defensively, constantly reiterates the same points over and over again between, transfer limitations, injuries repeatedly, PSG, as if that hasn't been memed to death enough. I do not know a single manager that has referenced a losing game or a losing series of games in the Champions League more than I have Arne Slot. I have not heard any coach or manager on any team I support reference a losing battle. All because it was like a draw or something. Like that's really what it was. That, we drew against PSG. We drew against PSG. Big fucking whoop. Or like they barely won or something. Whatever. I don't even remember. That's how miserable this team makes me that I don't even remember stuff that happened a year ago. But my point of the matter is this. Slot has no identity with Liverpool. He is simply just there, and from the looks of things, look on his face many a times, he's simply there to collect a paycheck. He is not there for the club, for the people of the club. There have been instances where I see him talk about certain things, like the most recent thing about the Hillsborough disaster, where that was probably the closest I've seen him show respect to the club. The Diogo Jota situation, as tragic as that was one of the few times where I saw him as like his identity was Liverpool in that moment. Outside of that, to me, he looks like a guy collecting a paycheck. He looks like a guy who is coasting on the fact that he is a manager of a big club, regardless of whether he wins or loses. And if you ask me, he talks and acts like a guy who clearly has the backing of the ownership. Because tell me how a manager can get the results that we have been getting this season and still come into work the way he does, with a sense of smugness and arrogance. I cannot fathom that. That is someone that clearly has the backing of upper management behind him, regardless of whether he wins or loses. And to me, that forms a losing culture. And I do not want to see my team be in a losing culture, which is what I think Slot personifies right now. So that's really all I have to say on the matter, truthfully speaking. Now, I have many other reasons why I don't want Slot as my manager on this team anymore. You can go back to 160-something episodes of Liverpool Latest that emphasizes that fact. But I don't think I need to say much more right now. I think I've pinpointed my points relatively well. I think many of you, to some degree, agree with many things I've said. And if you have your own spin on things I've said, feel free to comment down below. But I think if we continue to have Slot as our manager next season, we are going backwards. The club and all of the progress that was made for many years under Klopp regardless, and I hate to make these comparisons because I know it's two different styles here, but all of that progress that was made, all those championships that were won, all for naught because the ownership and the office wants to be stubborn. And frankly, if this continues to go the way that it is going, and that is losing, they have nobody to blame but themselves. They'll scapegoat Slot and fire him eventually, but the damage will be done by then. Clubs won't be able to come back from something like this. At least not many. Like I said, look at Leicester City. They're in League One right now. That is an absolute abysmal failure from where they were years ago winning the Premier League. That is where I fear we are going right now. Maybe a little bit harsh, but I feel it I have a gut feeling that something is happening to the club that is preventing it from reaching the status that they should be getting this season. There's no reason why we can't two-peat back-to-back this season with the talent we have. It all comes down to coaching. A lot of it does anyway. Player performance, yes, but coaching is a big focal point of this. And I fear that we are going backwards. So, thanks for joining me on Liverpool Latest. I'll see you after I get back from my little mini vacation this weekend with all of my thoughts about Liverpool and Chelsea. And until then, I hope you enjoy. Thank you for joining me. And know that when you subscribe to the channel and join the Liverpool Latest family, know that you, my friend, never walk alone.